I told this woman that I loved her within 36 hours of knowing her. And I literally told her within 36 hours, I was like, look, this is gonna sound like a lot and I'm sorry because I know it's weird, but I know I'm supposed to marry you.
I'm convinced that all men cheat at this point.
The Wizard Liz got cheated on 4 months pregnant.
Oh my god! I hate men. I repeat, the Wizard Liz.
You are telling me Mother Liz was cheated on?
The Wizard Liz just posted that her fiance Landon cheated on her while she is 4 months pregnant. 4 months
Have you seen her? She's so gorgeous, so confident, so beautiful.
Men, just in general, cheat.
If that woman had to go through this, us mortals, us little peasants, how are we gonna survive?
In general, most men cheat. So I've given up on finding a man who doesn't cheat. Now I can look the other way if you give me things, okay?
I'm seeing so many girls online right now saying that if this happens to Liz of all people, then we're all cooked. Which is very valid because she's probably one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen online, and she's also such a huge and influential figure to girls in teaching them emotional intelligence, intuition, and self-worth.
Selfish people win at the end of the day. Just don't be afraid to ask men for things. Like, men are literally not afraid to ask us for anything. They will ask you to take your clothes off in 2 seconds, so it doesn't matter. Ask them, give me money. Me personally, I am not attracted to guys that have no money. I am simply not. I'm attracted to money. One thing in life that broke men have is audacity. And then I was thinking to myself, why is it that everyone is always obsessed with me?
Have you heard the news? Men are terrible. They cannot be trusted, they will cheat on you, and nothing you do will ever be good enough. You might as well give up now and just accept that with a man, you can only ever have painful, toxic relationships. Men are just inherently evil, and they will screw you over. And we know this because one scummy dude who used to be a Pokemon simp decided to cheat on his influencer girlfriend, and that means all hope is lost. This is because his influencer girlfriend, the Wizard Liz, is super hot, and she's admired online as being super smart and giving amazing dating advice, and if even she got bamboozled and hoodwinked by a terrible, terrible, bad man, this means you, with your dumb little brain, have no chance of seeing through bullshit. Sorry, didn't you hear me? I said his girlfriend was super hot. Don't you get it yet? The fact that this super hot, smart, amazing girl got cheated on, the fact that her boyfriend thought that even she wasn't good enough, means that you will never be good enough for a guy. Are you as hot as her? Are you as confident as her? Are you as sure of yourself? Frankly, I don't think you ladies even deserve to kiss the ground that Liz walks on. If even this icon, this goddess, could not find a man with enough character to be loyal to her, that means that for you peasants, love most certainly is dead, and men are trash. Also, because men are trash, why not just use it to your advantage? Why don't you mistreat and use men first before they can mistreat and use you? Why not manipulate them? Spend all their money and only keep them in your life as long as they're useful to you. Treat them sort of like disposable wallets. If they're going to objectify us physically, let's feed into that and objectify them financially. That'll solve the problem. Attack is the best form of defense in war, because make no mistake, the dating game is a battle, and you don't want to be the loser. That's been the Wizard Liz's dating advice for a very long time now. And behold, the fruits of her labour. A whirlwind toxic relationship with a manipulative scummy guy who cheated on her at 4 months pregnant. And if what you're taking from this very public breakup is that Liz is hot and perfect and the guru of relationships, and if even she got cheated on, what hope do I, a mere mortal, have in this war against men who have all proven themselves to be terrible? Rather than the actual moral of the story, which should be, wow, what good news. Being super hot makes no difference as to whether or not I'll be cheated on. That's really good to hear and makes me feel a lot more secure in myself, because clearly this demonstrates that being cheated on has nothing to do with my worth or how attractive I am. Maybe the lesson here is if I follow toxic dating advice and prioritise superficial traits over the quality of someone's character, I'll end up with someone of very little character who'd cheat on anyone. And furthermore, maybe approaching men like they're an enemy to be conquered rather than a partner to be cared for will result in a self-fulfilling prophecy where we end up with metaphorical swords at each other's throats on opposite sides of a metaphorical battlefield. And if you're one of those girls taking taking the former message that men are trash and that you're doomed no matter what because you're not as pretty as Liz, shake some sense into yourself and snap the hell out of it. For those of you who don't know, The Wizard Liz is a YouTube channel that mainly gives life advice aimed at women. A lot of this advice revolves around dating and how to deal with men, or how to become richer or more attractive. Some of her notable videos include Why Everyone is Always Obsessed with Me, How to Recognize Signs from the Universe, Stop Dating Broke Guys, How to Be Hot, How to Become Rich, How to Protect Your Energy, etc. 8 months ago, Liz released a video on her channel called I'm Getting Married. Well, fast forward to a few months later with her 4 months pregnant, and her partner, Landon, was then publicly outed by Liz herself for messaging another girl asking to meet up and telling this girl that his relationship was fake for social media. The girl then sent these screenshots to Liz, so embarrassingly for Landon, he wasn't even caught cheating, he was caught failing to cheat. He and Liz immediately broke up. In a great twist of what now seems like dramatic irony, the last video uploaded on her channel, only a few days before he was outed for texting someone else, was a Q&A with him, where he said in this video, amongst other things, that forgiving your partner for breaches of trust was important, and he implied that might even be the case even if they were texting someone else. Foreshadowing. Now, because Liz has been looked up to with almost a religious-like devotion by many women, who apparently see her as some all-knowing deity overflowing with wisdom, mostly, I believe, because she's very pretty and speaks with an overwhelming amount of confidence on the secrets of life, despite being in her early 20s. But because of this, because they perceive her as some sort of guru, they are beyond shocked that this could have happened to her, and seem to be using it as a reason to kind of point and say, you know, see? Men are terrible if even the beautiful Liz with all her wisdom and advice got screwed over. So can I offer an alternate perspective? Rather than taking this as a sign that we're all doomed no matter what, can we just take a step back, stop idolising influencers and YouTubers, and see if there's anything that can be learned from this? What I'm going to take from this situation is do not do what Liz did, because frankly, her dating advice is abysmal and was always going to lead to a terrible outcome. Now, just to say before I get into it, because I know some people are going to react very badly to that in the comments, no, that doesn't mean that I'm happy that her marriage is falling apart. Well, I'm not even sure if they're actually legally married. There was a bit of confusion about that, but she called him her husband. Anyway, it doesn't mean I'm happy about that falling apart. It was entirely predictable, but it's still an incredibly unfortunate situation. Being a single mother is hard, and I hope that she and her child go on to have an amazing life. And yes, what Landon did to Liz and his unborn child was scummy. Nothing excuses him of being a Weasley rat boy. And finally, even though Liz's advice does encourage women to run headfirst into multiple red flags, of course it is also true that sometimes you don't know if someone is going to turn around and betray you. It's never a guarantee, but I think there are things that you can do to minimise the risk, or at least things that you shouldn't do that would make that outcome far more likely. And if you think I'm being too harsh on her, just wait until I get into some of the things she actually says. I felt a lot less sorry for her after sitting through hours of her talking about how selfish she is, amongst other things. One of the most harmful things I think about Liz's channel is that she hides her toxic relationship advice under the guise of female empowerment, which in her world means that you can give tips on how you can manipulate your partner into doing things, but that's okay because it's #girlboss and tee-hee for the girlies. Fake news. This is marketing and propaganda to avoid criticism, and if you're going to accuse me of hating women because I think that Liz has zero to do with actual empowerment, all I will say to you is good luck finding happy relationships, ladies. Slay queen, get your bag, men are trash sounds cool on Twitter, but in the real world it's a dreadful relationship philosophy and will likely not result in Prince Charming knocking on your door. And by the way, I'm fair. I'm all about gender equality on this topic. For some newer viewers to my channel, because I know some people aren't aware of this, some more recent viewers, I used to critique the red pill a lot, okay? I have multiple videos ripping men apart for similarly toxic dating advice, and it's not any better when women do the same thing. The fact is that whether it's from the red pill or the female version of it, it's all terrible, horrible advice that leads to a lot of miserable men and women, encourages them to treat the opposite sex as disposable and as an enemy that can't be trusted, makes them bitter and angry at each other, and is either going to lead to a lot of toxic relationships or a lot of people being alone. So, because there are some people who have placed a 25-year-old influencer on such a pedestal because she's hot, believing her to be an endless spring of dating wisdom, and as a result now think themselves doomed in love if even their icon couldn't make it work, I'm afraid we are going to use her as a case study and hopefully convince some people that all hope is not lost, because a lot of what she was saying was not very wise at all. Newsflash. 20-something YouTuber gives bad life advice. And I know that's true because I myself am a YouTuber in my 20s. But I'm a couple of years older than Liz, so my advice is at least 2% less bad. But in all seriousness, it doesn't take a genius to hear what she's selling and realise it is just bad advice. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Galatea, and this is Acis, my dearly departed. And today we're going to be talking about the female counterpart to Fresh and Fit, why emotionally manipulating your boyfriend is a bad thing, and why encouraging women to be gold diggers with no compassion for men is terrible advice that will make them miserable and ensure they will never maintain a loving relationship. Just the same as the red pill boys on the other side. So Liz is not the only female influencer who basically gives red pill dating advice, but just for women. It's been a growing trend online, but we're covering her because, like I said, she's a good case study for it, given the recent situation. Just know that this actually is kind of a wider thing, a wider issue, I suppose we could call it. Also, I just want you to know that the wizard Liz has spoken at the Oxford Union. Truly, an intellectual. I have nothing more to add to that piece of information. Moving on. To summarise the more toxic side of red pill dating advice for men, if you're not familiar, guys like Fresh and Fit give other men this type of dating advice, roughly. Men are the prize and fundamentally more valuable in a relationship than a woman is. And because of this, money is really the only thing men need to bring to the table. Super hot and young women are the only valuable women on the dating market because, really, being hot is kind of a woman's only value. If you're not a rich man, you have no hope in the dating market because all women are superficial, gold-digging whores. So, if you're a man, get rich, sleep around as much as possible and treat women like they're disposable, and then settle down with a much younger virgin who's easily malleable at some point in your late 30s. But also let her know that you're probably still stepping out and cheating on her because, again, men are the prize, so how could she expect to have you all to herself? I think that about sums it up. And then on the other side, we have women like Liz, whose basic philosophy seems to be, women are the prize and fundamentally more valuable in a relationship than men. And because of this, looks are really the only thing that a woman needs to bring to the table. Super rich men are the only valuable men in the dating market because, really, being rich is kind of a man's only value. So make yourself as beautiful as possible and use this as a trade for money because all men are superficial, shallow pricks who only really care about how hot a woman is. So, if you're a woman, make sure he's paying for your time and presence in his life. And if he stops paying, walk away and treat him like he's disposable. Never date a brokey because, again, women are the prize, so how could he expect to have a trophy on his arm without paying for the privilege? And don't worry, I will go on to show some clips of her saying those types of things. Call me crazy, but I think anyone, man or woman, who is in a relationship and looking down on their partner and thinking their partner is the lucky one because they are just fundamentally the prize without even trying, I think those people are bad partners. I'm probably unbearably self-obsessed. The basic point is, most sensible people can listen to the advice coming from both the red pill and the female version of that and think, well, firstly, that these people sound like a match made in hell and they should just date each other and argue over who's the prize, as she bleeds him dry of money and he treats her like a sex object. But secondly, that obviously this advice is going to lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy where you only attract shallow people who don't value you beyond what you can give them on the most superficial level. If you're a man, that means only being valued for as long as you're rich, and if you're a woman, it means only being valued for your looks and for as long as you're young. Who you are becomes irrelevant. And that, my dears, is called a transaction or a business arrangement, not a relationship. Everyone quite rightly laughed at Walter from Fresh and Fit for giving all this dating advice, only to get conned by an escort who then went on loads of podcasts to publicly embarrass him, and it became super clear that she was only ever interested in his money. Yeah. If you give toxic advice, you get toxic results. And entering the dating arena defensively, like the opposite sex is your enemy that you've got to get as much out of as possible and never let them win, is obviously never going to lead to a cooperative, happy relationship. And then these people use their bad choices and the fact their behaviour is only attracting bad people as an excuse to then paint everyone of like that gender, the opposite gender, as being fundamentally bad or flawed, oblivious to the fact that they are a walking, self-fulfilling prophecy. Plenty of men don't get screwed over by gold diggers. Walter does. Why? because he thinks the most important thing a man brings to a relationship is money, and all he cares about in a woman is looks. So he's obviously only going to attract a woman who only wants him for his money because he has so little else to offer. And on his part, he doesn't care about character enough to filter out a shallow woman, just as long as she's hot. I have very little sympathy for these people because not only are they entirely the architects of their own demise through their own selfishness and self-obsession, but also they are actively ruining relations between men and women, giving terrible advice and causing other people to be miserable. And the thing is, Liz herself, she thinks that the red pill is misogynistic and toxic. And she's not wrong, but the fact that she can't see that she is literally the same as them, down to only valuing men for money, is highly ironic. And I'm sorry, ladies, but if you think the red pill is toxic and sexist, you've got to keep those same standards when women do it. Otherwise, you're just making the problem worse for everyone and contributing to the online toxic environment. It is not good for anyone to go into dating with an entirely self-centered attitude and view the other person as something useful to you. So with that being said, let's talk about Liz's entirely selfish approach to relationships. So to put this out there, Liz does have some good advice. I will give her fans that. Like the red pill, not everything she says is terrible. Now, where her advice really shines is when she's talking about self-confidence, or saying not to view yourself as a victim, where she talks about not putting up with toxic behaviour, having self-respect and boundaries, and giving pep talks on how to stop wallowing and get on with it, kind of that type of advice. Like, snap out of it, come on, like, sort yourself out type of advice. That advice there, some of her advice there is really good advice. There are some things she said, quite a few things she said, that I agree with. The thing is, sometimes the line between self-confidence and self-love, and then just flat-out self-obsession, is a fine one. Liz cannot see this line. Liz cha-chas and tangos back and forth across this line with wild abandon. Liz plays hopscotch and leapfrog over this line. Liz treats this line as the starting point rather than the finish line, if she even realises this line exists in the first place, which I doubt. It is good to value and prioritise yourself sometimes. That's some good advice that she gives. But she often confuses valuing and prioritising yourself with just flat out disregarding and using other people. Also, by the way, obsessing over yourself and expecting everyone else to obsess over you also can lead you to ignoring some pretty glaring red flags because it will give you blind spots. As Exhibit A to support my argument that Liz is obsessed with herself, let's take a look at her video titled, "Why Everyone is Always Obsessed with Me."
And everyone, my relationships, the guys would always worship the ground that I walk on. And then I was thinking to myself, why is it that everyone is always obsessed with me? Everyone in my family now looks up to me and is like, whoa, I'm really healing all my family members. I'm doing everything. And then they're like looking at me and being like, whoa. So they look at me as in like, whoa, they want that in themselves. So you are even more mesmerizing for them. I've always been like that. I think other people just admire that in me. They're like, whoa, I want that as well. Every person that's ever met me said, whoa. It was so insane. Like, I had women that came up to me and were like, my husband finds you mesmerizing. And I would have people constantly come up like, whoa. And people would even ask my boss, like, can she serve me? And then they were like, no, she only works behind the bar. But they were like, whoa, like, she's amazing. Like, she's so mesmerizing. One guy looked at me, he's like, literally, whatever you sell me or want like me to have, I will take, because it's almost like you put a spell on us. So that's how mesmerizing you are. Liz, when you work and when you walk in, it's like a sunshine. Like, I'm just like this ball of energy and they want to be around me.
The women who are ego stroking her in the comments, don't even lie to me right now. If a man made a video titled, "Why Everyone is Always Obsessed with Me," you would laugh at him. Quite rightly, because it would be embarrassing. She sounds so similar to the most of the cringe alpha bro, I'm the prize podcasters.
You can never ever catch me in a toxic relationship. I only date people that are literally obsessed with me. Literally. All the guys that I have dated, my exes, till this day, they would still marry me like this. Because it's just the way that I choose my partner. If they do not show me that they love me, I don't date them. You need to physically show me, you know?
So, this might sound good if you're 12 years old, but this statement is actually so revealing of how dysfunctional her view on relationships is. From what I've heard of Liz, her view of a healthy relationship seems to be when a man is full of adoration and attention for her and is, quote, in his masculine energy and lavishing gifts upon her. Later we'll hear her talk about the example her parents set, and it seems that she's had an example of a bad relationship, where the husband is totally neglecting his wife as she does everything and he never gives her attention or love or gifts while she does all the housework and earns all the money. And that is an unhealthy relationship, yes. But the solution to neglect is not obsession.
You can never ever catch me in a toxic relationship. I only date people that are literally obsessed with me.
The opposite of a toxic relationship is not, as she has suggested, your ex is being obsessed with you even after you've moved on. That's telling me that she's not had very mature relationships with secure people.
Till this day, they would still marry me, like this.
She's talking about that like it's a sign of how healthy her relationships have been, but it's actually a red flag that she can't see, and she's encouraging other women to not only ignore, but actively seek out this particular red flag. Your exes being obsessed with you and still being willing to marry you to this day is not a sign of how amazing you are. It's a sign of you having a pattern of dating emotionally immature and insecure men. Sorry. Liz's dating advice prioritizes stroking her own ego and seeking validation more than it does anything else, which tells me that she also might be a bit insecure. She's so bad at giving dating advice that she can't even hear how toxic this is. She doesn't even realize that she is telling on herself, and millions of people are eating this up. This is bad. I mean, firstly, there's the obvious thing, don't you feel guilty? If anyone that I dated in the past was still obsessed with me and would still marry me, like that, to this day, I'd either be a bit concerned with my well-being and think they maybe were a bit unhinged, or I would feel bad for them and like they really needed to move on. And if they would marry me like that, even after I'd moved on, I would also wonder where their self-respect is. Where did you put your balls? And how can I help you find them? What I'm hearing is that Liz is consistently dating men who form unhealthy attachments to her. I'm assuming she keeps up some form of contact with them after the breakup for her to know that they're still obsessed with her, and that they'd still marry her in an instant. She must still kind of maybe in some kind of contact with them, which tells me that she's dating emotionally immature men with low levels of self-respect. That might sound harsh, but you cannot be selecting mature people if they would marry a woman who has shown that she has moved on and doesn't really care about them, and who also cares about them so little that she's still happy stringing them along, still keeping some form of contact going because she values getting validation from them more than she cares about their well-being and long-term happiness. I mean, is that what's happening? Maybe not, but it sounds like it. It sounds like you're describing men who are happy with being picked up and dropped at your whim. And personally, I don't think a man with that little amount of self-respect is a good choice of partner. But it sounds like Liz is selecting for people who allow her to treat them badly. We're not off to a good start. We're going to see a consistent theme here with Liz's dating advice. It's very self-centered and doesn't take that much into consideration the well-being of the men that she's with. This is the same thing Fresh and Fit do, but with how they view women. Also, you don't actually want a man who's obsessed with you, okay? Like, obsession is not the same as adoration or love. This is prioritizing the wrong things. She's prioritizing princess treatment, basically, over a genuine connection. And this is bad because it also leaves you susceptible to love bombing, which Liz has fallen victim to. This is what Landon did to her. Landon told Liz that he was in love with her after 2 days. He love bombed the hell out of her. They moved so quickly, their timeline, yet he still cheated. Why? Because, and say it with me, obsession is not love. Someone obsessed with you, especially straight away, is often a red flag. It's infatuation, not love, and it might mean they have some issues in themselves and they're projecting this image of perfection onto you, okay? They're in love with what you represent for them, not with you as a person. And when you inevitably fail to live up to their delusion, they will blame you for it. Obsession is also what stalkers feel. It's not about you. It might not surprise you to know that there is also some pretty compelling arguments that Landon was a former fan of Liz who stalked her and then tracked her location to a random airport in Greece to start a relationship with her. So you don't want, and the problem is when you have blind spots if you want people to be obsessed with you, and I think that was one of the blind spots, is you're not seeing, you just want someone to be obsessed with you and adore you and lavish all this stuff on you that you're not seeing things clearly. You're not, in fact, you're seeing a red flag as a green flag. That's what she saw. Like him being obsessed and saying, I'm in love with you after 2 days. She saw that as a green flag because she loves when men are obsessed with her. That's a red flag. So that's the problem, again, with obsession is it's not love. And again, he went on to treat her badly because it's not love. It's someone getting fixated on something. and then probably just getting bored and then going on like he did. I might be coming across as harsh to Liz, but I do want to pick apart her advice to demonstrate that she does not have it all figured out, and she is not an example of someone who's doing everything right and still got screwed over. And the reason I want to go through that is to counter the narrative that 1, all men are terrible, and 2, all hope is lost. It isn't. Just don't follow her advice. And of course, like I said, of course, that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to not end up dating a loser if you don't follow her advice. But your chances are lowered. She is literally encouraging people to run towards red flags. Do you know what else is a red flag? Do you know who is obsessed with you, gathering personal information such as your name, address, social media profiles, and even, potentially, any court records and social security number? That's right. Data brokers. Do you know what data brokers do? They sell your data to companies for marketing purposes, data which unfortunately can also end up in the hands of scammers. And these scammers might have your phone number or your name and constantly bug you and constantly be calling and being weird and obsessed with you. Ew, that's why Incogni is the sponsor of today's video. Incogni does all the hard work of reaching out to data brokers on your behalf, requesting they remove your data and handling any objections. If you were to do this manually, it would be exhausting. Do you know how much time Incogni has saved me? An estimated 32 hours and 15 minutes is how long it would have taken me to do it, if I even knew where to start, which I don't. But Incogni has gotten it all done for me. Also, 19 data brokers have now added my information to their suppression list, which means they will never recollect any data associated with me. Having your personal information leaked can be worse than just scam calls though. If someone has your personal data, they could potentially take out a huge loan in your name, or a health insurance company could potentially raise your rates based on your online activity. Yes, apparently that's actually a thing that has happened. Or someone you don't want finding your personal information could find your personal information, and potentially even you. Ew. So avoid those red flags and take your personal data back with Incogni. There is no risk in trying it out, as they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy with what they do. So set up an account, protect your information, and use code OBSERVER at the link below to get 60% off an annual plan. That's at incogni.com/observer and use code OBSERVER to get 60% off an annual plan. Thank you so much to Incogni for sponsoring today's video and helping us steer clear of all the icks out there. So, despite Liz's status as the ultimate girl's girl and female empowerer, it might surprise you to hear that she has had problems with female friendships in the past. No way! Liz? Sweet, selfless, never has to be the centre of attention and definitely not competitive with other women over rich men, Liz? Why would she struggle to maintain female friendships?
You know what? I made lots of mistakes with female friendships, and to be honest, I think I'm gonna do a video on that. And I am the kind of person, if you're my friend, if I am good and if I get rich, you will get rich. Literally. Like, I am so giving and generous, but the same way that I love, I can switch as well. If you betray me, you're out. I don't care. You're out. There's one disrespect, you're out. I do not care how many years I've known you, how close we were, how much you know about me, you're out.
And I'd also like to know what she means by one disrespect. I might be assuming here, but she doesn't strike me as the most understanding or forgiving person. Astonishingly, after her hard line here on not tolerating any disrespect, she then goes on in the next breath to describe her showing disrespect to others, cancelling a date just because she feels like it, for example.
Another thing is I do things that I want to do. So for example, say I have a date that I'm going to. If I do not want to go on a date and I just want to spend time with myself, do some self-care and things like that, I'll say, hey, listen, I cannot make it today. And yeah, they get upset and stuff, but then I don't care because I chose myself and I chose what I wanted to do first.
Guys, this should be obvious, but you can't go into dating not respecting something so basic as the other person's time and expect it to go well. Especially if you're the type of person who would flip if they did it to you, and I get the feeling that Liz would.
Another thing is I do things that I want to do.
With a cute girly shrug, and I just do whatever I want. I just do whatever I want.
Yeah, they get upset and stuff, but then I don't care because I chose myself and I chose what I wanted to do first.
Listen to that sentence. Both men and women listening, tell me if you would date someone who says that about their partner. Quote, they get upset, but I don't care. As long as she's happy. So she does this under the justification of prioritize yourself. And this is what I mean when I say that there's a fine line between valuing yourself and setting up boundaries, and then going so far that you are inconsiderate of other people. You've got to give respect to get it, Liz. You can neither ask nor expect a man to sometimes put you first if you are not willing to do the same to him. And any self-respecting guy would walk away if you continually do that. Especially when a requirement of dating you is that he's obsessed with you. Is the selfish philosophy starting to be revealed yet? Look at how unbalanced that is. She demands her partners are totally devoted to and obsessed with her, yet she cannot even give them the consideration of showing up to a date they've planned. One, I imagine, that he'll be paying for. That's not self-care, that's just selfish. Please do not follow her advice. Emotionally mature men will run from this behaviour. And when that happens and they're all avoiding you, just whatever you do not sit there tweeting about how there are no good guys left and all men are trash. That is one of my pet peeves. Women and men who make selfish and bad dating choices and then blame the opposite sex for their terrible results.
When you put yourself first in every aspect of life, people will put you first.
No, I'm not sure they will. Only people pleasers will, which will mean you are taking advantage of them and they'll eventually become resentful of you.
When people just see you put yourself first, they think like, oh wow, what does she think she has? Like, what is it about her? Because she thinks that she's so important.
I understand there's a level of truth in that, there's a level of truth in that sometimes you need to advocate for yourself and be strong and not care what people think. But not putting yourself first in every aspect of life. Then you just become the selfish bulldozer who repels secure people and squashes those who can't advocate for themselves. I don't think you should be taking that attitude with your partner. You should not always put yourself first in a relationship and never care about how they feel. Can you imagine the build-up of resentment that will create? Do you want a partner or a servant? This is just like fresh and fit for women. I'm sorry, but it is. She is literally saying, put yourself first in every aspect of life, and not only that, not only is she saying that you need to put yourself first in every aspect of life, and expect other people to also put you first. It's so selfish. That's what she thinks. She puts herself first in every aspect of life and expects and demands and feels entitled to other people also putting her first. That it's so selfish.
And when I say like put yourself first, it's not like neglect other people, because I'm very loving towards everyone and I give so much to everyone. But if Liz wants to do something for herself, Liz will do it.
Yeah, she gives to everyone until it contradicts something that she wants, and then it's always her way. Giving something that you don't mind giving isn't hard or noble. That's easy, okay? Like, if she's, talking about how she can be giving and helpful or whatever when it never contradicts what she wants, but that's easy. That doesn't make you not selfish. The real test comes when you have to sacrifice something. And that will come up in a relationship. She is telling you that she doesn't compromise. She's just saying that she doesn't compromise flat out. You can't have a relationship without compromise.
I am not going to waste my time, years, everything on a relationship, on a friendship that does not benefit me, or in a job.
Self-confidence can be a good thing, but making a video about how mesmerizing you are and how everyone is obsessed with you and how I make everyone a better person and they always leave my life a better person.
So that's why people, they gravitate towards me. They're like, you make my life better. Every single person that has ever been in my life, I have genuinely made their life better. They have left my life a better person. Always, without a doubt. To be honest, if I was a man, I would 100% date myself. 100%. Because there is no person that is ever come out of my life more depressed. They always left better. Left a better human.
Do we think maybe she's crossed the line into self-obsession and she's lost the ability to self-reflect? Everyone always leaves your life a better person? Have you never wronged anyone? There's nothing you regret? No one you hurt? Have you asked them all if they feel that way? How about the female friends that you cut off? The women that you didn't get on with in the past? Did you ask them? Really? Everyone leaves your life a better person? Have you asked them? Did you ask them? How did that work? Did you send a survey around to everyone that you've ever come into contact with? Everyone who was in your life sees you personally as responsible for making them a better person. That's the most mind-blowingly arrogant, narcissistic thing I think I've ever heard. Wow, astonishing. Can you imagine how pissed off you'd be, by the way, just as aside, can you imagine how pissed off you'd be if you were one of those people that like Liz had wronged, or you'd had like a not so great interaction with her, or like she pissed you off, and then you hear her like say like everyone that she's made you a better person, like, oh, it made me so angry. Anyway, but I'm curious, Liz, is that their perspective or yours that you've made them a better person? Because given how earlier she spoke about herself, I'm not convinced she's that good at taking in someone else's perspective or experience. Seeing as, what was it she said? I don't care, I just choose what I want to do. I don't think she's that good at self-reflecting or being able to put herself in someone else's point of view to be able to see herself clearly, given that she doesn't give a shit and she's said that. I mean, it's just crazy. The kindest, most selfless people on the planet still wouldn't say that they always make everyone's lives better, and I'm sure they can think of at least one occasion where they felt they had left someone worse off and regretted their actions. I think the reason why a lot of young women like Liz and her advice is because on the surface, it's like, you know, like feel good, easy, slightly meaningless advice that sounds nice and amazing. You can have it all, put yourself first, you can be mesmerizing and attractive like me. And she also has this veneer of spirituality over it, which hides the fact that it is both shallow and toxic, which only makes it even more damaging. The fact that it kind of manages to be subtle about that and kind of hide the toxicity. Liz has rebranded narcissism as highly evolved spirituality. Her and Chelsea have this in common. She's not far different from the Chelsea one I made the video on, honestly. And having said that, some of her advice, like I've said, is good. That I can see why women would resonate with that. Maybe some of the self-confidence advice and to stop like letting people walk all over you. That's all great. But, you know, she goes way too far with it to the point it's ridiculous. Now shall we move on to the gold digger allegations. Interestingly, I've noticed that when Liz talks about men and money, she gets very angry. She's got some really strong feelings about it, feels incredibly entitled to it, and is very, very defensive about the whole thing. I think Liz loves money more than she loves men. Don't take it from me, let's listen to her.
Me personally, I am not attracted to guys that have no money. I am simply not. I'm attracted to money, I'm attracted to power, I am attracted to a man that is in his masculine energy and is willing to provide and protect. That is what I want in a man.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but money is not a trait in a person that it is possible to be or not be attracted to. You can be attracted to money, but that has zero to do with the person who has said money. Ambition is a trait that you can be attracted to in a person. You can be attracted to drive, competence, charisma. Now, those things are personality traits that may lead to money, but saying that you are attracted to money is not the same. That's not been attracted to the person or any qualities of the person. That is a separate thing, not an internal trait they have. She also directly links money to masculinity. That seems to be like the only metric that she measures masculinity by, but we will get to that later. I just also wanted to play this.
I can love a woman. I can love a woman very deeply. It does not go the same way for a man. And maybe this is because my trauma or whatever, but it's also because I don't allow myself to love a man that much, right? Because maybe I'm terrified of getting hurt. Maybe I'm terrified of being abandoned. These are all like issues that are underlying and I'm aware of them.
From this and other things that Liz has said, it sounds like her father was an awful person and the resulting trauma is not something to mock her with. What I will say is I do not think it is a good idea for women to take dating advice from someone who openly admits that they do not allow themselves to love a man deeply. That's like a man trying to build a healthy relationship using advice from someone who admits they don't allow themselves to love a woman because they're scared of getting hurt. It's obviously a bad idea, guys. So I actually came across this clip of her saying that she doesn't allow herself, that she can't love a man deeply. I came across that, of her saying that, after I came to the conclusion that it seemed like she had a little bit of a self-protection thing going on. Liz struck me as someone who has an underlying attitude of always having to take care of herself, look out for herself, who expects to be betrayed by people. There's a bit of like a hard shell there, and I wonder if that's where the selfishness comes from. She prioritizes herself because she expects no one else will. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's also why she's chasing men who demonstrate apparent obsession with her to make up for her feeling that. Who knows? I had those thoughts about her before I heard her talk about her past, but with what I've now heard, and with her past in mind, and having heard how she rants about her mother's experience interchangeably with ranting about men and money, I do think this real anger at men who won't provide comes from anger at past father figures who wouldn't provide. So I empathise with that, but I still don't think it's then fair to feel entitled to a man's money or to get angry at brokies for not having money because of a misplaced feeling of wrong from your past, or have the same level of anger and vitriol at a man not showering you with luxury items as you do towards a man not providing for his family. They're not the same thing, but Liz seems to get confused with that and often think that they are the same thing and equates them later. But you can really hear some of her disgust and anger towards broke men in her video titled "Stop Dating Broke Guys."
First things first, we are gonna start doing is having expectations for men. Men have so many expectations for a woman, okay? You're supposed to carry his child, you're supposed to be a virgin as well, you're supposed to be very beautiful, you're supposed to never age, you're supposed to literally do everything he wants, you're supposed to be his personal therapist, nanny, cleaner, chef, everything. But don't you dare, as a woman, expect anything from that man. You want a tall man? How dare you? How dare you ask for a tall man? No. You should accept him being ugly, and you should accept on top of that being broke as well. Because don't you dare, as a woman, say that you think money is important. No. Immediately they will start to go into a whole meltdown, calling you a gold digger. How dare you wanting money? How dare you wanting to use this poor man?
Okay, there are layers to this. Firstly, you are absolutely allowed to have your preferences. Your requirements are over 6 foot and a millionaire? Fine. You're a guy, but you won't date any woman who's not blonde with big boobs? Fine. I mean, you just have to understand that if you're prioritizing certain things above all others, it might not lead to the deepest connection. Secondly, it's naive to say that money doesn't matter, but it's more complicated than that. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone wanting a partner who's financially stable, especially if you want to raise a family, and that consideration probably is more important for women. If you're the one going through pregnancy, who's likely to be taking more time off work, and who is going to be impacted more by childcare in their early months or years, you don't want to do it with someone who's unreliable, who's going to create an unstable home, who can't step up when you need to focus on other things, i.e. babies or pregnancy. Even without kids, for both men and women, it's reasonable to want someone who either has or can get themselves together, because in the world we live in, finances hugely impact security and the type of life you have. I don't think most people, bar the most bitter of incels, are berating women for not wanting to date unemployed, unreliable guys. But I'd like to know Liz's definition of broke. There's a difference between wanting financial stability and wanting someone to buy you designer bags all the time.
Men love to say, and what do you bring to the table? Me personally, I do not sit at empty tables. I sit at tables that are full. I don't need to bring anything else than my presence, my personality, who I am, and my beauty. I sit there and that's good enough for the guy. What do you bring to the table is broke guy talk. No guy that is actually willing to provide and actually take care of a woman will ever tell you, what do you bring to the table? Shut up. So start having expectations. Say, hey, I want my man to have this, and on top of that, I want my man to have money.
There's nothing wrong with having expectations, but just be aware of what you have expectations about. It's probably healthy to say, these are the behaviours and characteristics I want in a partner, but when it gets into, tall, rich, dark hair, spends loads of money on me, then you might have crossed the line from high self-respect and standards into, dare I say, being bratty and demanding, and perhaps prioritising the wrong things. You might get all of that. You might get that whole list, everything you think you want, the exact physical description you want with loads of money and buys you loads of gifts, but have you neglected your standards when it comes to his character? Yes, of course, attraction is important, I'm not saying that. Of course it's important, but having so many superficial requirements start to sound like treating people like products, kind of like a car. I want this model in this colour that looks like this and does this and goes this fast. It sounds like you're shopping, not seeking to build a relationship. And by the way, I think it's probably quite normal. I think a lot of people do that before they get into a relationship. They might, have a list they want ticked off of he or she needs to be this, and this. But what actually happens when people fall in love in reality is a lot of what they thought mattered doesn't matter. They might be attracted to someone they didn't think they would be, they realise they don't actually need him to be an expert chess player and a fan of Lana Del Rey, I don't know, in order to be happy. Liz is also inconsistent with her opinions on men. This is why a lot of what she says, honestly, strikes me out as kind of lashing out, like irrationally and angrily, because her worldview makes no sense. She wants men to provide, she's angry if they don't, but she also seems angry that they do. I'm confused.
Men cannot deal with their emotions, and that's why you guys rape, kill, and do anything that is not normal. You guys created this narrative for yourself of be a man, be strong, go to work, be a man, whatever, provide. And then today you guys are complaining that the suicide rate is so high for a man. But why complain when that is the system that you built for yourself? You see, and then you guys complain that women aren't feminine anymore. Women don't want to stay home. Women want to go out and work and make their own money. But you guys can't provide for them. Men are so stingy.
I'm not sure that you get to complain, Liz, about men having built the system where they provide when you're actively feeding into that and benefiting from it by solely going after rich men, and when you only value men for how much they earn. You can't have a go at men for shutting off their emotions to just earn money when you have made it perfectly clear, Liz, that money is primarily what you value them for, and when you have said in the past as well that you don't care how your partner feels. The lack of empathy for that specifically is really quite astounding and stone cold. Does she have any empathy at all for the male suicide rate being high? Doesn't sound like it, because why complain when you built the system? You're unhappy and you want to die? Sounds like a you problem, honestly. Now buy me a bag. Am I tripping, or is that how the clip is reading? Like, maybe I'm being really uncharitable and she didn't mean that. But it just sounds like victim blaming, and like suicidal men aren't allowed to complain about their struggles because they've brought it all on themselves. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe the full context kind of changes it. I don't know, because the full video no longer exists. That's a clip from Think Before You Sleep's video on her. I think she's deleted, it's gone, the original video. I don't know, she deleted the original video, I assume, so I don't know the full context. Maybe the full context makes it better. I don't know how else to read that, like maybe, but it just sounds so callous. And I'm not saying that she has to be a men's rights activist or anything, but Jesus, Liz, can you at least try to care a little about the people that you're using? Cold. The audacity is also crazy when she demands her men provide for her. You've made your bed, now lie in it. Is crazy to say when you're pushing them to do that. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't see how this is much different to when you get like misogynists saying, you know, things like women complain about getting raped, but why complain when you were literally out there begging for attention? This is the system you guys created. While also the guys saying that were encouraging women to, like, I don't know, be sexy or whatever, like, with a load of hypocrisy thrown in. Like, you would quite rightly lose your mind if men said that. I don't know, like, can I just say there's almost nothing more disgusting than both men and women, and I've seen it from both, than both men and women displaying such a lack of empathy for the other's suffering. It's really vile and frankly pretty inhuman. Also, do any of you guys, all of you, do you think that's going to help? Do you think it's going to make the other side more sympathetic towards your issues? You do realise when you do things like that, you're just giving the opposition justification to totally dismiss and delight in your suffering. And that's everyone, both men and women. I've seen, like, those of Red Pillars do the same as well with women and just be, like, disgusting about it and have no, like, empathy. And then, like, people like Liz saying that. And it just seems crazy to me that she's talking so callously about that when also she's the one who wants them to earn money for her. Like, it doesn't make... It just... She's completely... I mean, it's completely illogical for a start, but it's also, like, cold as hell.
I need you to understand that people in life get what they expect. I've always expected my partner to pay all my bills and do everything financially for me because I grew up watching my mom go to work every single day, work in between men, and her ex-husband lay at home, do nothing. And then after like a long abusive marriage like that, where she was the provider, he ended up cheating on her with a younger woman. Now he has a family with this woman, and guess what? He is providing everything for this woman. Why is he doing this now? Because that woman expects him to. There is no other option. He cannot be with that woman unless he works. I need women to understand that men will say they want good women, but good women never get rewarded. It's always like, oh, I want a day one girl. I want a girl that has been there from the beginning. But those women get literally later on cheated on. Why is this? Because that's not the woman they want. That's the only woman they can get right now. Once they are at a level where they have the money, they want to spend their money on the fantasy woman, on the woman that they actually want.
She's giving advice based on her own trauma of what happened to her mother. Do not take dating advice from people speaking from unhealed anger and trauma towards the opposite sex. The manosphere does the same thing with women. So many men in the red pill space have hatred or anger towards their exes or some girl from their past or even their mother, and then they give or follow horrendous dating advice based on that and then wonder why they can't maintain a relationship or why they're like attracting women that are bad for them. In all honesty, I think Liz goes into relationships with men with the mentality of what she can get out of them because she's angry at them. It feels a little like revenge, and I can't see much difference between this and the red pill guys who go into relationships with women with the same anger and mentality of like, what can I get from them? Like you want to kind of punish people of the opposite sex because of something someone from your past did to you who just happens to be the same gender as that person. And that isn't fair. And to then project that personal anger you have onto a large audience, I think is wrong. And I feel very sad for Liz in some ways because it sounds like she's tried to make herself this fantasy woman that she talked about in order to protect herself from being hurt like her mother was. But that's not how it works. No matter how beautiful or self-defensive you are, that will not protect you from getting hurt in a relationship, as Liz later discovers. There are no guarantees, of course, but a better place to start would be looking at building healthy relationships, which is not what she teaches. Look, and it's not true that women who have been there from day one always get cheated on. What she means by that from day one is like a woman who's been there from a guy not being rich, like been there as he builds up or like, you know, before he became something, I guess, is the thing. But like, it is not true that those women always get cheated on. Sometimes it's true, but sometimes it leads to a really strong and lasting relationship where people stick with each other through hard times. And the fact that Liz is actively discouraging that, frankly, just demonstrates how shallow and self-serving her outlook is.
So broke guys are very insecure, okay? When they see a woman making money, when they see like a woman providing for them, whatever, building them up, they start to disrespect that woman. That's not the woman they want, okay? And once they are there and completely built up, they will actually leave you for the woman that they do want. Because they do not respect you. They see you as like a competition. They do not see you as a lover of their partner. Why? Because these guys are not in their masculine energy. Men thrive on success. Men value themselves as well on their successes. So this guy does not respect himself. So if he does not respect himself, he will not respect you.
Again, I really want to know what her definition of broke is. Given how she talks and all the designer stuff that she posts on Instagram, I'm guessing that she would put men with an average income into that category of brokies. I've seen nothing to the contrary, that would make me not believe that she would put average earners into the category of brokies, broke men. Is she saying that average men aren't masculine? What about manual labourers? Are they any less masculine than a nerdy tech billionaire? Is money the only metric of masculinity? Like, that sounds pretty dehumanizing, like you're reducing a guy down to just his wallet. And given how much Liz hates alpha male podcasts and how they reduce women down to sex objects, this is pretty hypocritical. I can't believe she ranted about how men are the ones who put pressure on themselves to provide and that's why they're killing themselves. Yet she's also saying that men who aren't high earners, don't respect themselves, can't be good partners, and are not masculine. I also think this is rich given her implication that her exes are still desperately begging for scraps of attention from her like puppy dogs. I'm sorry, are those the self-assured masculine guys that you're talking about, Liz? So, let me get straight. A guy who happens to be dating a woman earning more than him doesn't respect himself and isn't masculine, but a guy who pines after the ex-girlfriend who dumped him and would go running down the aisle with her as soon as she called does respect himself and is masculine. Are we measuring men's masculinity based on their willingness to buy you handbags? I don't get it. I'm going to take the most charitable interpretation of what Liz is saying and guess when she's talking about broke guys, she has the past experiences of her mother in mind. And yes, if you're dating some lazy guy who sits around all day unemployed while you do all the earning and the housework, I think you should break up with him. I've even given that advice to a friend in the past who was in that situation. I said, please, leave him. And thank God she did and is well out of that mess. But that's not actually a money issue, even though Liz is presenting it that way. That's a character issue. That proves that you're dating someone who is lazy, selfish, ungrateful, and willing to take advantage of your kindness. That's a person of weak character. They're demonstrating they don't care enough about you to help you or ever care and show appreciation for you. They're willing to use and leech off you. And I would agree with Liz. In those circumstances, those men probably don't respect themselves because they know they're using and leeching off someone. They probably do feel quite pathetic as men and like they failed. And I think that will present itself as resentment and disrespect towards their partners for making them feel ashamed of themselves and emasculated. But the problem is, Liz has no nuance. She's then expanding that type of dynamic onto every relationship where a woman might earn more and saying that, you know, the man then doesn't respect himself and he doesn't want you and he will leave you for another woman, so you should just never date a broke guy who doesn't buy you things. That you should never be the girl who's there from day one as he's working his way up. To offer an alternate perspective, my mum was making more than my dad when they met and when they first got together. He wasn't doing badly, but she was making more. They're still married, 4 kids, and almost 30 years later. He never left her for another woman, okay? This is why speaking from your personal experience and projecting that onto everybody as an absolute can be a mistake. It is not an absolute truth that if you make more money than your husband, he doesn't respect himself and will leave you. Do some men leave their wives for another woman when they get rich? Sure. Do some men get rich and stay with their wives? Also yes, because your character isn't determined by the state of your finances, and that's why you should probably consider the character of the person you date at least a little. But Liz doesn't really care about that because, again, she advises you on how to get into transactions, not real relationships, and she somehow rebranded that as girl power.
Another thing is, don't look for a wealthy man, look for a man with a provider mindset. My first boyfriend ever, when I was 19, he was a multi-millionaire. He was extremely wealthy and I was broke. And he would sometimes give me money, but like literally nothing in compared to what he has. And with that money, I needed to buy dresses to look good on the dates.
How many 19-year-old girls are meeting multi-millionaire 19-year-old boys? How many just out of school 19-year-olds are multi-millionaires? She doesn't explicitly say it, but I think we can infer from this that her first boyfriend was probably a lot older than her. Why do we think a probably older, rich, multi-millionaire decided to date 19-year-old Liz? Because she's beautiful. She even implies she was expected to look beautiful on dates by buying expensive dresses. Does that requirement sound like a genuine relationship to you? Just be careful when Liz talks about her past relationships because they sound more like arrangements in a lot of ways, okay? I'm not sure she has much actual relationship experience at all, yet young women are eating her advice up. She's giving advice to young women. I want you to remember that, okay? Young women and girls. Out of that demographic, young women looking for partners, let's look at age-appropriate men, okay? Men in their early to mid-20s. Most of them, men in their early to mid-20s are notoriously not the richest of men, okay? They're the poorest men. Most of them are probably struggling to get by in this economy, just like everybody else. And I know the manosphere likes to say that women love older men, but they also claim to love facts. And the fact is that most people date within their age range. So the percentage of wealthy, early to mid-20s guys who can afford to financially spoil you is tiny. They exist, but it is entirely unrealistic to think that you're going to end up dating one of them because they are a minuscule percentage of the population, and even if you did, it's unreasonable to expect him to just throw money at you. Liz uses single motherhood to justify finding yourself a man to provide for you and spoil you. Like if a woman is expected to raise children and also work, why can't a man provide? You know, men are babies nowadays, that kind of thing. But at this point, a couple of years ago, so she's pregnant now, but this was a couple of years ago, this advice, she's not a mother at this point, okay? She's not giving advice to mothers. She's giving advice to young women in the process of dating, not women looking at starting a family. So single mothers are totally irrelevant here. If you do have a family with a guy and you do childcare or the majority of the housework, yeah, fine. I think it's then fair to expect your partner to monetarily provide, but that's a different conversation that she is not even talking about. Even though she like mixes the two, but you can't use single mothers as a justification for why your boyfriend needs to spoil you. And by the way, if you are a couple in that situation where the guy pays for everything and the woman doesn't, but also doesn't have kids or do housework, go for it, I guess, if you're both happy with it. I don't really care. But the point is, in teaching young women to expect this, you are setting them up to be both entitled and also permanently disappointed because this is totally unrealistic. Do you know the circumstances under which this is realistic? If you're a sugar baby. Because this is the advice Liz is actually giving. Let's be real, is how to be a sugar baby. And she's leading so many people astray by presenting this as relationship advice. This is not how you find and maintain a relationship. This is advice on how to find and maintain a sugar baby arrangement. With that being said, forget about guys the same age as you. It's statistically improbable that you'll find one of them both with money. Young guys are, also still figuring things out, so he has to be both wealthy and also stupid enough to spend that wealth on an obvious gold digger. Maybe try a YouTuber. They'll probably fall for it. And young guys anyway, they have more options being both, if they're young and wealthy. I think, no, we're good. So statistically improbable that's going to work out. We're going to discount them. So what you're going to do is you're going to go for men in their late 30s and older. Probably older, because if they're older, the chances of them being richer are higher, and the older they get, the more likely they are to want a sugar baby, if they're single. They might quite like taking on a pseudo-fatherly role and lavishing expensive gifts on an attractive younger woman. That's a whole icky dynamic I'm sure Freud would love to untangle. Now, you can call that princess treatment if you like, but there are other words for it. In those sorts of relationships, which are really transactions, then you can demand that he buys you things because he's probably paying for the fact that you wouldn't be interested in him otherwise. But if you're in an actual relationship and you start demanding to be bought things without doing anything in return and having unrealistic standards, you're probably going to blow up that relationship. And again, a traditional dynamic where a bloke earns more and the woman might do more of the childcare or housecare is fine. But Liz is not talking about that. She's talking princess treatment. There's literally the name of her video, How to Get Princess Treatment. That's very different to a man providing from a family, and she just constantly uses the two interchangeably to justify getting princess treatment. It's like, oh, single men don't provide, men should provide for single mothers, therefore princess treatment for me. It's like, that's not how it works, Liz.
Start expecting good treatment. Start expecting to be spoiled. Start expecting him to give you money. Like, literally, those are your expectations, and that's it. And don't settle for them. Like, just say, this is what I want, and look for the person that is willing to give you that.
Let's just be real. Liz is incredibly hot, and so her perception is skewed because the kind of men willing to throw money at her are probably very shallow men, and very shallow men only want to spend their money on very hot women. And you'll have to keep up with that, getting fillers and treatments to keep up your end of the bargain and remain super hot at all times because that's what they're paying for. This might be a hard to swallow fact, but it is unrealistic for an average-looking woman to find a sugar daddy multimillionaire because he can just have that arrangement with someone who looks like Liz. To be clear, I am not saying average-looking women don't deserve love, or being treated well, or that plenty of them don't marry wealthy men. They do. They do marry wealthy men. They just don't marry shallow wealthy men, because the type of relationship Liz is advising you to find requires you to be incredibly conventionally attractive, or get a load of work done to make yourself that way. Liz is in the sort of relationships where she can demand money because, one, she's very hot, and two, her partners are aware of the arrangement. They provide money because she is very hot. Unless you're in that situation, don't follow her advice. And even if you are in that situation, I would suggest you get out of it and find a real relationship. To be clear as well, there's nothing, if you are dating, there's nothing wrong with liking it if a guy pays on the first date, or if you are young and in a relationship and he likes maybe spending a bit more money on you or having romantic gestures. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what she's talking about either. I think there's a clear difference with maybe a more traditional dynamic in terms of finances, even if you are young and starting out, versus being in a transactional relationship where you go into it thinking how you can get as much money out of him as possible, and also make him pay your bills.
My partner now, he always had the mindset of, if I don't have money, I don't even want to date a woman because I love taking care of a woman and I want my woman to look amazing and I don't care how I look next to her. She's like the prize,
As if we needed any more confirmation that in return for money and gifts, Liz must look beautiful. That's the arrangement, ladies. You don't get the money for free. She also does say that you shouldn't expect Rolexes from a guy who's not earning a lot, but just expect him to do what he can to provide for you within his means. Which, yeah, I guess at least she said that, but in all the other toxic advice, it doesn't mean much. And also, if he's not earning a lot, I'm not sure you should be expecting him to spend unnecessarily at all. It's just a very selfish perspective. She also said, she contradicts herself a lot, so I know some of her fans might be, no, she doesn't believe that because she also said this. Yeah, but just like the manosphere guys, she's full of contradictions. She says one thing but says another. She also says that luxury items aren't special and they don't validate you, and quote, only insecure people show off luxury items. But like she's a walking contradiction though, because her entire Instagram is flooded with her showing off luxury items. So she can say they don't validate her all she wants and that only insecure people show them off, and they're not special, but her actions suggest that she thinks otherwise.
Let a man know what your intentions are. If you are going on a first date, For example, before I start dating a partner, I always say I love a man that takes care of me. I expect a man to take care of me. I like to be treated and spoiled. And so from the get-go, they know, okay, this is what it is.
This is just signaling that you're a gold digger on the first date. Do you know how many sensible, mature men you will repel by asking to be spoiled? Are you his daughter?
But like the second date, you already have to see like, okay, is he like trying to give me something, like flowers, even something small, doesn't matter. Is he like doing something for me? If he isn't, why are you still there? Like you're literally sitting there, you're showing everyone that you're with him. You're looking in front of people like, oh my God, I'm the man. I have this beautiful woman in front of me. But you're sitting there and you don't have anything. Why? What are you doing there? Go home. Like go home.
Again, Liz is describing beauty in exchange for material things, and it's also pretty sad that she feels like she's not getting anything out of it if she doesn't have a gift, if she doesn't have a present in front of her. She's like, what's the point? Like, how about a genuine connection? Maybe, Liz, maybe that's what you get out of it. Yeah, but also, like I said before, this is potentially dangerous advice, and it makes you vulnerable to love bombing, as she was love bombed, as we've said, by her ex-fiance who cheated on her. This is bad advice. Like this Instagram post, she's changed her captions on her old stuff, but this Instagram post where the caption is, a man will send you almost 1 million on you, insist being around you 24/7, move in with you, be so lovely all day and still cheat on Snap and call your relationship fake. I mean, yeah, but that's the point, is if he spent 1 million on her, first of all, crazy. Second of all, yeah, but that's love bombing. Like that, money does not necessarily translate into love and security. Grand romantic gestures right off the bat could be nice, but could also be a cause for concern and might be a little bit like, why is he trying to buy me rather than just build a genuine relationship? Now, there's nothing wrong with getting a woman flowers early on in the dating process. It's probably quite sweet, but lavish gifts too soon should be a potential red flag. Also, it's pretty tiring hearing her describe almost every interaction with a guy with her thinking about what she can get out of it and feeling like the whole thing was pointless if she doesn't have anything. She wasn't wrong when she described herself as spoiled. It's just a deeply sad and immature way to assess human relationships and the people around you. Always what you can squeeze out of them, and feeling like it was a waste of time if you're not left with a present at the end of it. I go between feeling very sorry for Liz and having a lot of empathy for her, to thinking that she's a spoiled, selfish little brat who only cares about herself.
And if you are already in a relationship and your partner, he didn't spoil you yet and you want him to start spoiling you, just tell him like, hey, just be honest, say like, hey, I really would appreciate it if you gave me some money, like an allowance, or I would appreciate it if you take more care of me, if you like, just say it in a subtle way.
Come on, girls, be serious. This is not real relationship advice. She is just describing an arrangement. How many women in genuine relationships could ask their boyfriends for an allowance without him thinking you'd had some sort of break with reality? Give me pocket money. She wasn't kidding when she said princess treatment. This is giving daddy spoils his little princess. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it and see how it goes. Let's take Liz's advice.
Hello?
I have a concern, a question to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
It's come
Fire away.
It's come to my attention that you're not spoiling me enough. I would really appreciate I would really appreciate it if you gave me Stop. I would really hang on. It's not the question yet. I would really appreciate it if you gave me some money, like an allowance. Liz said if I asked you, it would work.
Who's Liz?
She knows everything about dating advice. She says if you're in a relationship and you're not been spoiled, you just have to ask nicely for pocket money.
It sounds like you need to go back to Liz for some more advice about how to handle this.
That doesn't work then. Can I have pocket money, please?
No.
Okay. Damn. If you're broke, just say that. I don't think a woman should ever really be asking her partner for an allowance Either one, you're married or together long term, maybe with kids, in which case you don't need an allowance because it's not his money, it's your money as a couple, because again, you are partners and not father and child. Or two, you're not at the stage yet where your finances are merged, in which case you should neither ask for nor accept an allowance from your boyfriend, because firstly, why are you his child? But, also it's dangerous to put yourself in that financially vulnerable position where he has the power in giving you an allowance and you have no legal protections, and he can just dump you. She's talking like this arrangement is empowering for women, but it isn't. You're putting yourself in some weird kind of like little girl role. I don't know. You might be getting paid, but generally, who has more power in those circumstances? The person getting paid or the one doing the paying? Are you staff or are you his girlfriend? Why do you have a salary?
And truly, honestly, if I was a broke man, I would have audacity too. Like, I don't need to do anything for you, and you're literally gonna give me all wifey treatment, you're gonna do everything for me, and you're working on top of that as well, and maybe even giving me money. I would have audacity too. You're so easy for me. Like, truly, that's how I think. She's so easy. And a lot of men think, okay, let me exploit her until I can get who I actually want. So stop doing this.
Please stop telling women that they're being exploited if they're in a relationship where a guy isn't paying all of their bills. If you're a working mother who's also doing everything else, then fine, yes, you're being exploited, but that's not the situation. I think it is interesting that Liz keeps making these Freudian slips and talking about single mothers or women who are taking care of everything and also working, when that's not the topic at all. This is about how young, childless women can get their boyfriends to pamper them. I understand her mother's experience was horrible, but she's projecting it onto unrelated situations and using that to justify women mistreating their partners. And I'm sorry to make it so personal and talk about her experiences, but she is literally using her experiences to justify, as a justification in this very video. It sounds like the genuine exploitation her mother suffered is tangled in her mind to the point she's describing healthy relationships as exploitative. And that's not okay, and past trauma is not an excuse to mistreat your partner, which she does go on to advocate doing.
He doesn't have money, but he'll get better and whatever. No, don't let these things slide. You think a guy would literally date you if you were not looking like he wanted you to look? No. You think he would wait until you get like beautiful or hot or whatever? No. Simply, he would be like, you're not my type, bye. So we should start saying, okay, are you a brokey? Yeah, I don't want you, brokey.
I'm sorry to do this, but if a men's dating advice channel was saying something comparable but about women, you would hear that differently. A man telling other men to stop defending their ugly girlfriends and to not let it slide. Just imagine a man telling other men to say this. Okay, are you a fatty? Yeah, I don't want you, fatty. To be clear, you're allowed dating preferences. Like, if you don't want to date someone based on their weight or how much money they make, you're allowed to do that, but you don't have to be so cruel and angry about it. Almost like you're outraged they dared approach you because you're just that superior. It's mean girl behavior. I just think she's really just got so much vitriol towards like broke men. This is just how to get a shallow transactional relationship dressed up as life advice. And I think this probably will resonate and appeal to women who have been hurt, because this is defensive life advice, which is even worse, because you're giving bad advice to vulnerable people who would be better off healing. This is like a judge him and protect yourself before he judges you type thing. I think this is coming from a place of not feeling secure, and can money offer security? Yes, of course, especially for someone who's grown up without it. But please do not mistake your financial needs being met for the actual sense of safety and security that you are looking for. If you've not grown up with a lot and you associate a lack of money with chaos, pain, trauma, powerlessness, uncertainty, danger, then of course as an adult you might see money as the ultimate solution to all of your unmet needs. Now this is nuanced. I once got into an argument or discussion really with a guy who was from an incredibly wealthy family, and he was saying that money didn't buy happiness and he would be just as happy without any money, and it didn't matter to him. And to be fair to him, he was a very lovely and grounded guy in many ways, and he had the right idea about relationships and people around you being the most important thing rather than money. He had the right spirit, heart 100% in the right place. But like I said to him, that's easy for him to say that money isn't important when you have it and have never known life without it. He had the freedom to say something like, money means nothing to my happiness, because money had never been a source of concern for him. Does money buy happiness? No. But if a lack of money means you're living with such a lack of security that you're afraid and stressed and uncertain all the time, does that make being happy difficult. Yes. So if your partner is a loser who is bad with money and going to offer an unstable environment for your kids, I don't think it makes you shallow to take that into consideration. But that's not what Liz is saying. I think people have got to be careful, and I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I think people have got to be careful, either taking or giving life advice that comes from unhealed pain. Marrying a rich man is not going to fulfill all of your neglected childhood needs and make you feel safe. It might, if him being rich is a byproduct and his character is safe and secure and reliable, but having money as your primary focus in a partner will not lead to long-lasting happiness or safety. The same way, having attractiveness as your primary focus in a partner will not lead to long-lasting happiness. All that will happen with this mentality is you attract shallow people who are willing to trade money for looks, and you start to primarily value yourself on how you look, which is devastating for your self-esteem, because you know that really that's the only thing about you that your partner values, which, God, sounds awful. And you will not find that deep sense of safety and security and happiness you were hoping money and material things will bring you because your emotional needs are not being met. Advising women to not stay with a guy because, quote, he doesn't have any money but he might get better, whatever, and telling them that's stupid to think. It's stupid to think he might get better because a man wouldn't do the same to them if they weren't hot enough, is a pile of advice so bad on so many levels. Now, Liz and I are probably coming from two very different worldviews here, which is important to remember. From what I understand, her father was terrible and she has been hurt by and never really been able to trust men in her life. On the other hand, most of the men closest to me in my life, like my dad and my granddad, have always been reliable and trustworthy. So both she and I obviously are going to see the world coloured by our own experiences. She's going to be more biased towards men being terrible, and I'm going to be more biased towards them being good. And I'm saying that because I think the advice that a guy who currently doesn't have money but might one day, the advice that he's just a brokey and you should leave him, is in my mind bad advice. Because I think you should find a guy based on his character. And if his character is good, yeah, he might not end up super wealthy. He might, but you don't need that to be happy. But he'll be reliable and stable. I don't know if Liz is coming from the point of view of men always being disappointing and severely unreliable and untrustworthy to the point of it being life-ruining. She might be coming from that point of view. In that case, yes, don't date a man who's financially irresponsible, selfish, and will probably leave you monetarily ruined. So I'm saying that because I suspect we are coming from two very different places, and for the type of men that she's talking about, her advice might not actually be bad. For the type of men that she's talking about, I just think the advice should be how to not date men like that, rather than how to date men like that while getting what you can out of it and minimizing the damage to yourself as much as possible. She's approaching a relationship like a business deal with a dodgy company where you've always got to be on guard so they don't screw you over, and you've always kind of got to uphold your end of the transaction or it will fall apart. I mean, and she's also just admitting that, you know, she's not willing to be there through the hard times. That admission is going to repel good men. If you won't stand by his side when he's not wealthy, why would you expect him to stand by your side when he is? You reap what you sow. The point of a relationship is supporting someone even if times are difficult. You're just explicitly saying that you don't value him as a person at all, which is why you end up with men who don't value you as a person, but only value your looks. I mean, the same goes for a guy not giving you the time of day if you're not super hot. Is finding your partner attractive important? Of course. The same goes for women, by the way, unless they really are only with you for your money and don't care about finding you attractive. So yeah, it's something someone is going to consider in a partner. But men who are not shallow are also going to consider your character and probably place that higher. Liz says a man wouldn't give you the time of day if you're not hot, but there have been plenty of men who have chosen a less hot woman with a better personality over a super hot woman with not much else going on. There was a video I did with my dad actually a while ago where I was asking him stuff. This was when I was talking about manosphere stuff. But in that video, he told this anecdote about a friend of his who was going out with this gorgeous woman, like the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. And then his other friends were asking this friend, because he broke up with her, like, well, what happened? Why did you end it? And he said she was boring. He was like, she was so boring. Her pillow talk was terrible. Like, yeah, she was gorgeous, but God, it gets old after a while. Like, there was nothing else to her. I know that's just one anecdote, but it happens a lot that looks aren't enough, especially it depends what kind of guy you're talking about, but it happens often that men will choose a less hot woman who is more interesting or kind or compatible than they will a super hot woman who they have nothing in common with, or who's mean, or who's boring. I mean, some men will always go for the super hot woman, but those are the men you want to avoid, because those are the men that don't have much else about them, because they're really, really shallow and they're just going for the super hot woman every time. So avoid them, avoid those men. But she's actively selecting for those men. But that's my question would be, why do you want a guy who only values you for your looks? And attraction is also about more than just physical appearance. Personality and chemistry come into it too. I'm sure there are plenty of people, men and women, who have had the experience of their attraction to someone growing over time, and that is because attraction, while yes, it includes looks, also includes other things like your energy, your character, etc. But if you don't have a relationship based on an actual connection, but rather a transaction, you're never going to experience that. And I know because Liz is contradictory, she also makes videos talking about how your energy is important, how it's not about your looks, how it's about your energy, which is all very well to say, but like when her whole ethos and mentality is just around maintaining herself as a hot woman and about like getting a guy who's only going to go for hot women and selecting shallow men who only care about hot women, she is going to end up with no one giving a shit about her energy. But the truth is, it's not that all men are going to ghost you if you're not super hot, so you should ghost them first for being a brokey. It's that the kind of men you attract by only valuing money are the kind of men who are only going to value you for being hot. They're looking for a trophy, not a partner, and you're willing to be paid for the privilege. That's not a real relationship, and it will not make you feel secure. Even if you had all the money in the world, you will not feel emotionally stable, supported, or fulfilled. And to add to that, sometimes a rich guy who's also a bad guy can be dangerous in a different way. Money brings power, yes, but trapped in a relationship with someone very rich and powerful but of not great character, that's just a different type of trouble. And let's not forget, he's the one who's got the money, which is fine if he's good and you're in a relationship with him, but if he's bad, it's not just other people he can leverage that power against, it's also you. So, which is fine, I'm not saying don't date rich guys, I'm just saying date good guys. And if they happen to be rich, that will be fine and it won't be a problem if they have a good character. You know, like, that's just the point. Now we get to some of her more toxic advice. Well, all her advice is toxic, but this is particularly bad. Her advocating for manipulating people and the like. So first she says this.
But one really important thing is to not demand a man for things. Demanding a man for things is just, honestly, in my opinion, disgusting, because a man doesn't owe you anything. If a man wants to spoil you, it's because he wants to do that, and if he knows that you like it, he will do that, you know? But you saying like, you have to do this for me, he doesn't have to do anything for you. He doesn't owe you anything, okay? So don't say it like that.
Now that sounds good, but don't worry, she will contradict herself later. And also the reason she thinks that you shouldn't do this is because it will put men off, like demanding things. Don't worry, she's got a far more manipulative way of going about it to get a man to spend money on you.
Is do not tell a man that your exes treated you badly. The way men think is, and this is actually what my man told me, he thinks, okay, I have to do a little bit more than the ex. In that way, I'm like a little better, you know? I have to do the bare minimum more. So then in her eyes, I'm better than the ex. So if you tell him, oh, my ex used to beat me up and abuse me, then he will think, oh, okay, if I just don't abuse her, I'm the good guy, okay? So what I recommend you do is always tell him, oh yeah, my exes, they always used to take care of me. Like I was always financially taken care of, all these things. You have to tell a man that. And maybe later down the line, when you're already in a relationship, you can tell him like how it really was if you want to tell about your exes and you can open up. But especially in the beginning stages when you guys are dating, do not say this. Now, if you've already told him that your exes were so bad and they mistreated you, don't worry. What you can do now is you make your man believe that either your friend, your sister, I don't know, some female that you know is getting treated so well by her boyfriend, by her partner, by her husband. You should say like, oh my god, my friend, she literally, like, she's always taken care of by her husband or her boyfriend. He always does everything for her. Oh, he just bought her this and that. See, how men are is competitive. They're very competitive. So if you tell a man that your friend is being taken care like this, then their competitive nature comes up and they're like, okay, this is what I'm competing with. Even if I mention to my man, like, your friend, she got these pair of shoes and I love them, he literally buys them for me the next day. Like, it's a competitive nature that they have.
So this sounds horribly familiar to how men like Andrew Tate advise men to lie to women, to manipulate them and get what you want out of them. It's just toxic advice. If that sounds like harmless to you, just think about it for a moment. Imagine a men's dating podcast giving advice on how boyfriends can get their girlfriends to behave how they want or to like take care of their looks more by constantly comparing them to other women. You don't think that's bad? You don't think that sounds bad? The fact that it is so subtle only makes it more insidious. She's saying, lie to your partners to manipulate them and get them to buy you things. It's just disgusting. And again, imagine that your boyfriend is always saying how much, you know, his friends' wives or girlfriends always take care of themselves, or they got a boob job, or she always looks so put together and pretty. Just psychologically chip away at him until he feels inferior to other men, and you get him to behave the way you want him to behave. And get what you want out of him. This is demonic. This is demonic advice. It is, actually. But also, what type of men are you attracting that they would hear that you've been treated badly and they automatically go to thinking they can just do the bare minimum? The fact that that's how she sees men, that's what she says men are like, that's her view of men, because that's clearly how the men she's interacted with. And that's like, why are you dating human trash? That should be your sign to walk away and find someone else who will treat you well, regardless of how you were treated in your past relationships. I don't know what kind of men she's hanging out with, but most of the men I know, they're not thinking like, oh, I only have to do one better than her ex-boyfriend. And if he was like abusing her, I just have to not be that and then I'm perfect. Like, what?
And for example, if I was dating someone new, or you are dating someone new, you just tell him like, yeah, you really do seem like the type of man that likes to provide for a woman. Oh yeah, like you're really like a manly man, like I can see that. And he'll be like, yeah, I really am. Oh. So yeah, you just make him think that it is his idea to spoil a woman.
You're the type of man who likes to provide for a woman. I can see that.
Provide how?
An allowance.
Right, we're back to this again.
You're supposed to say, yes, I am. Let's try again. You're the type of man who likes to provide for a woman. I can see that.
What's your definition of pocket money?
So pay my bills and...
That's not pocket money.
No, and...
That's paying your bills.
So you're not the type of man who likes to provide for a woman. So is that a no?
It's a pretty firm no.
In my head, I think no one is good enough for me. I literally think that I am the best. So I make people happy. You have to make me happy as well.
There's a difference between having self-love versus thinking you're the best and no one is good enough for you. What self-respecting man goes out with a woman who says that publicly as advice? She's selfish, wow.
This is also such a big thing because women are so afraid to ask, and this is the easiest thing ever. Like, just ask. Just ask and you will get it. Like, I had this one friend and she literally was dating like this wealthy guy. They were together for 1 year, and when she met me, I told her, I'm like, oh, well, so do you have a card that he gives you with an allowance on it? And she's like, no. And I was like, why don't you have a card? And then she's like, oh my God, like, do you think I should ask and stuff? I'm like, yeah, go ask. So then she went ahead and she just asked him, can you give me a card? And then from then on, he's still taking care of her till this day, and she has a card with an allowance on it. Just because she asked. But with my relationship now, immediately when I met him, I like when he said like, oh, I like these shoes, I was like, yeah, me too. Can we go buy them? And he would literally take me to go shopping. Just don't be afraid to ask men for things. Like, men are literally not afraid to ask us for anything. They will ask you to take your clothes off in 2 seconds, so it doesn't matter. Ask them, give me money.
So this just obviously contradicts her earlier advice about not asking men for things outright, and it been disgusting apparently. Also, the fact she's telling her friend this, to her friends in the same situation, her and all of her friends are clearly sugar babies. These are not normal relationships. She has no idea how normal relationships work. She's out of touch with real relationships. Do not take her advice, unless you're in her situation and her friend's situation, because she's surrounded by people who are not living in real reality and engaging in real relationships.
If you're in the dating phase and you're not in a relationship, you're just dating, getting to know each other, keep your options open. You know what the guy does? Keep his options open. Goes on another date, like sees this woman, whatever. Oh, they don't put all their eggs in one basket. But we as women, oh no, immediately want you. I want you. And then we get disappointed when we get ghosted, when we get heartbroken, we get disappointed. Okay, but why in the dating phase did you literally date one guy and that's it? Why? And make sure they know you're keeping your options open. Make sure that literally, because women are like to be like, no, you're the only one. Oh, I love you the most, blah, blah. When I started dating my boyfriend, he literally asked me, Liz, are you seeing other people? I'm like, yes, I'm dating other people. And then he was like, okay, I have to win this girl over because there is no way that I want her to be in a relationship with another man. And on top of that, that makes you look very desperate because it's almost like this girl has no options. Like immediately she'll throw like one guy she sees and she will latch onto him. Then the guy thinks like, oh, no other men want her.
Okay, this is so subjective, and I know this is subjective, but I hard disagree. That doesn't mean that you have to be attached to someone immediately and think they're the one from like the beginning, but I don't think there's anything wrong with giving someone the courtesy of your full attention in the dating phase and not seeing anyone else to give it a fair chance. Personally, if I was dating a guy and he was also seeing other women, I would immediately walk away. I would take it as such a sign of disrespect and disinterest, and like he just wasn't that bothered. When my boyfriend and I started seeing each other, we weren't going on dates with anyone else. It was a while until we became, like, official, but we never had any kind of exclusivity talk because that was taken for granted from the beginning. Maybe it was different because we were friends first, but honestly, I'd have expected that from anyone that I was seeing. Maybe that's unrealistic, maybe, but like Liz says, you get what you expect and what you set your standards as, and that's what I expected and what my standards were, so... But that was just an unspoken agreement between us from the beginning, and we've since spoken about it, and both of us have said that if the other had been going on dates with other people while we'd just been dating, even early doors, we'd have both seriously questioned the integrity or seriousness of the other person and how, like, interested or bothered they actually were. It would have felt really disrespectful. And that didn't mean that we were all in from the first date, but I don't know, it just felt like a sign of respect. Like, we were giving it a fair chance. Like, we were like, okay, we're both interested in each other, let's see where this goes. Rather than, I don't know. And I get this personal choice for everyone. Some people, like, don't care in the early days and they'll see other people and date lots of different people at the same time. But I'm just saying, like, it's the fact she's actively discouraging people from doing that. I mean, if you don't want, like I said, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to, you know, just be dating one guy at once, that's fine. But I think it's so wrong to say that guys will be put off and they will think that no one else wants you if you're just seeing him. It's so revealing of the type of men that she surrounds herself with. How pathetic and childish are they? That, you know, they're like, have this attitude of, no one else wants my shiny toy, she's not seeing other men, I want the one all the other boys are playing with. That sounded more sexual than I intended, I just meant in a childish way. But no, it isn't true that men will see that you're only dating them and think that no one else wants you and therefore be scared away. You know who are the type of men who will see you respecting their time and immediately take from that they have the power now and can take advantage of that? Superficial, scummy men, the type you attract when you chase money. And guys who aren't interested in playing childish dating power games might not consider you a serious option anymore. Because that's what she's advocating for, like playing childish power games, be dating other people so that, you know, he doesn't have the power, and it's all like, I just think it's a silly way to go into like a relationship with mentality with. Don't date scummy guys and you won't have that problem or have to play that power game. Liz's advice is almost tailored towards filtering out good men. Her advice, I think, is actually good if you're in relationships with men who will screw you over. Her advice is good because her primary drive seems to be self-defense first and foremost. But the thing is, you don't have to date scummy men. You don't have to. But playing silly power games probably is going to filter out mature people who are serious about you. The problem is that she errs far too much on the side of treating men like the enemy and not trusting them. In which case, you're going to repel men who don't want to be seen or treated like the enemy or aren't interested in these silly like games. You're going to repel them. But I'm just thinking of the men in my life who I'm close to. If they were on a date with Liz and she said that she's still like talking to loads of other guys and dating loads of other guys, they would immediately be put off by her and not take her seriously and like kind of discount her as an option. Her advice makes it harder for you to find a good guy and a long-lasting relationship, not easier. And also, no, it doesn't make you desperate as a woman to only be dating one guy at once. It does make you desperate because you're holding the man to the same standard. If he's seeing other people and you're not, then yeah, I agree, then you're being played, and then you're embarrassing yourself, and there's a power imbalance, and then it comes across as desperate. But have the same standard for him, like just don't put up with it. Like Liz said, have standards. Just have them about important things. Have someone who's like meeting you on your level and has the same values and standards as you.
Some of you women are dating literally a guy that is everyone's man, and everyone knows. Everyone knows that this guy is a cheater and he's not even hiding it from you, and you go into this thinking, oh, I want a loyal guy, and then you date him, and then he cheats on you and you're shocked. Honey, why are we shocked? Why are we shocked?
This is slightly ironic considering what happened. Yeah, I mean, for her ex-boyfriend in the part, he was a Pokemon simp. He used to be a Pokemon simp. There's a video of him sending stuff like Pokemon or whatever, which, I don't know, I would say I did a whole video on nice guys, and why they're not actually nice. And I put simps in that category. Simps are not good guys. They're nice guys, but not good guys. There's a difference. I'd say don't date a simp because they're probably desperate guys with low self-esteem, which is a huge difference from being a good guy. And desperate guys with low self-esteem probably are gonna behave the way that desperate guys with low self-esteem do. But also, recently, Liz seems to be, there's an ex-girlfriend of Landon's who's come out with this story and screenshots and messages showing that Landon cheated on her before he was with Liz. He was cheating on her, and Liz seems to like be now ganging up on her with Landon, apparently. I don't really understand the whole situation, but it seems that she's like going after this other woman and saying this other woman is like a liar and stuff. But why would you think that, Liz, when he's cheated on you as well? It's just confusing. But it's like, I don't know, it feels a bit ironic given that her whole speech about don't date a guy who's known for like cheating, and then you're shocked when you get cheated on, and then she's like out there like not believing and mocking Landon's exes who have said that he's cheated on them. Why would you not believe that? Are you just not taking your own advice? I don't understand. Apparently she has a history of doing that as well, like bullying people who disagree with her and like sending them messages and like just being a bit insane. Apparently that's going on right now. So, I mean, I think that advice is good. Don't date a man who's known for cheating and then be shocked. But I just think maybe she should take her own advice.
At the end of the day, men are like children. I'm in a long-term relationship and I can literally say men are like children. They are like a child.
So this really annoys me because it's just the exact same thing that Fresh and Fit say about women when they go like women are like children. But do you like really think that throwing that insult back at men is going to be helpful? Do you think that's going to help the discourse? But also, can we normalise not talking badly about your partner to millions of strangers online? Can we normalise not publicly humiliating them, especially when they're not there to defend themselves? Can we normalise solving our grievances privately because we don't want to embarrass them? I don't know how I'd feel if my boyfriend made a video to millions of people, millions of strangers online saying, I am in a long-term relationship and I can literally say that women are like children. They are like a child. If he said that, because I would be like, wow, what the fuck are you saying? Like, because of me? Like, what? That's insulting. So the fact she's saying that about she's actively in a relationship, do you have to badmouth your partner to millions of strangers?
This is an unpopular opinion and people probably gonna be like, oh, what are you saying? This is really not good. Selfish people win at the end of the day.
She's so contradictory because then she rants about how men are selfish in other videos and how it's bad that men are like that. But then she just openly says like, yeah, I'm selfish. But then gets mad at men if they're selfish, but also is selfish. I mean, she might as well just have the word toxic tattooed on her forehead for how blatant she is about this stuff. What bad philosophy. Selfish people win at the end of the day. Which again, by the way, is a lot of the red pill like manosphere's philosophy. It's the same thing. They are the same. They are toxic as each other and just completely self-serving.
Let's come down to the fact that you guys just hate yourself. And you know, it's funny to me because a lot of people say like, why do men love mean women? It's not that they love mean women. They love women that reinforce the hate that they already have for themselves. So those women, they just tell them, yeah, I hate you too, just like you hate yourself. Then you have the good woman that does everything for this guy, and the guy will feel like she's fake. She's not being honest with me, so let me find someone that's being mean to me because at least she's honest. The question is why a lot of men love toxic women. Yeah, because there's a lot of toxic men.
I beg you to stop listening to her. She is telling you that she is toxic and that she goes out with toxic men. This is manosphere advice flipped when they say like you have to be mean and awful to a woman, otherwise she'll hate you and think you're a simp. This is how you attract unhealed people and make their issues even worse by continuing to mistreat them. She is a toxic person, and her advice is poison, and it will poison your life if you let it until you're toxic too. She's encouraging you to be mean to your partner to reflect the self-hatred men supposedly already have. She hates men. She's just mean. She's a mean girl.
You are a mean girl!
I'll tell you who should listen to Liz, who might actually get something out of her advice, is women who are massive pushovers and people pleasers. Because some of her advice will help them, and they're probably the least likely of people to kind of go off the rails with how extreme she is. So some of her advice is like good up to a point with the boundary setting and not being like a pushover, but she just goes so far with it that it goes off the rails. And it's a shame, because some of it is good advice. So in this video called You Are a Clown, for a lot of the video, I was actually like enjoying it. I'm like, yeah, she's got some good advice in this. She's basically talking to her subscribers. One of her subscribers asked, how do I get over this guy? And she just made a video called You're a Clown. And like, you're telling me this man is not interested in you and you're still thinking about him. And she's like, no, just let it go. He doesn't deserve you. So just grow up. And like, it's basically, she was just giving good advice on how to not be desperate and or not get immediately attached or having this fantasy and not allowing men to disrespect you. It was a kind of like stand up girl and stop wallowing pep talk. Smack some sense into you type thing. And I thought it was pretty good. The You Are a Clown video was pretty good up until a certain point.
This person does not want you. Don't you get it? If a person even remotely respects you and is normal and wise enough, they will say, hey, listen, I don't feel like this is working, and they'll communicate it. If a person does not respect you at all, has zero respect, they'll just ghost you. If they wanted to, you would know.
That's good. Stops you being delusional. Just move on. Great advice. But then she's immediately into terrible advice in the next sentence.
Listen, if the ghost comes back, right, after like 3 weeks when his little fling didn't work out and they're basically like, hey, I'm sorry, I was sick, or oh, my grandma died and whatever, and you know he's lying, make him pay. Make him seriously pay for something. Buy you something if he wants to see like again.
She was so close. She was so close to giving good advice. And she had to ruin it. You know what he learns if you do that? That he can buy your forgiveness. Maybe he'll cheat on you, but it's okay because he buys you a fancy necklace because he feels guilty. Or maybe he'll do worse than cheat on you, but buy you apology flowers. That's a trope for a reason. Don't allow that kind of man into your life. This is such a lack of emotional maturity. You cannot solve emotional issues by throwing money at the problem. And also, like, if you're thinking long term, then what kind of parent will he be? If his only emotional tool is buying things. That's how he apologizes and makes up for things. If you guys teach your kids that's how to resolve their problems. Fathers who throw money at their children to try and solve any and all issues end up fucking up their kids. This is well known. Everyone knows this. This is terrible advice from Liz. She's preaching all this stuff about self-respect, but then she's also telling women to clearly signal to men, I can be bought. If someone disrespects you early on in the dating process and shows that they don't care about you that much, just move on. Or maybe they can make amends, like genuine amends, and in a genuine way where the actual problem is solved and you work through it. But either way, don't try and guilt them into buying you something. That's a toxic relationship. One person behaving badly and then making up for it with money or presents, and the other person using guilt and emotional blackmail as a weapon to get what they want. And you're also telling him that material things are more important than respecting you. How do you think you're going to end up being treated in the long term? He'll buy you nice things and probably also treat you like shit. This is terrible advice. This is not #girlboss. And frankly, I really think everyone who thinks it is needs to grow up because they're stuck in the mentality of a teenage girl. How has Liz managed to rebrand being a trophy wife or girlfriend as girl power? Have we come full circle? Having to get fillers and Botox to keep your man and exchange that for him buying you designer things is girl boss now. Having a transactional relationship where you use someone and are used in turn is empowering now. The only reason she's managed to brand that as empowering is because she talks about getting what she can from men. I suppose it caters to that primal human desire to wrong someone in the way that you feel you've been wronged. Let's just use men like they use us, and the designer bags will distract us from the fact that we're actually still being used in this process and our lives and relationships are hollow now. Using men is not girl power. And some of you seriously need to snap out of that thinking. It's not power, it's an illusion of power. You're both just being played. You know what I think would actually be empowering to women? I don't know. Loving relationships sound pretty cool, where you're valued for more than your looks, where you're loved for who you are and you feel secure and supported with someone you don't have to play power games with because you can trust them and you can be vulnerable around them and you're not always thinking about what you can get out of them because you're on the same team rather than on opposing sides of some exhausting Machiavellian dating chess game. Crazy talk, I know, who would want that? Meaningful connections? Fulfilling relationships based on mutual respect and love? Gross. You can use men if you like, you have free will, but just like the red pill guys on the other side of things who use women, you'll end up unhappy and empty and all of your connections will be hollow. And then you'll blame the opposite sex for it. And look, some of Liz's advice was good. Don't take disrespect. Don't think you can change a guy. Have confidence in yourself and keep your eyes open for bad men and avoid them like the plague. Her advice on how to avoid bad men was just bad. You can't disregard a guy's character in favour of his money and still expect to filter out the bad ones. Look for actual indications of character. And no, over-the-top romantic or monetary gestures do not count. That doesn't mean anything except that he wants to impress you. Discount it. What people do when they're trying to impress you tells you zero about who they actually are. All it tells you is who they want you to think they are. And that's a different thing. And unfortunately, when you filter for flashy, superficial men, they are going to be more concerned with how they appear rather than who they are. Liz was right to be defensive, because she was going for men who were screwing her over or using her. And of course, like I said, there are no guarantees. Of course there are no guarantees. But just try not to go for that guy. Being vulnerable is important in relationships, but be selective with who you're vulnerable around. Just because you're not approaching men like they're the enemy doesn't mean be naive. Do your best to see him demonstrate who he is before you fully trust him. And don't marry a guy that you've only known for a few months, because the timeline of her relationship with Landon was insane. It's highly likely that he stalked her to their airport in Greece. He told her he loved her and that she was meant to be his wife after 2 days of knowing her, 2 days together. I think they were engaged in under 3 months, decided to have a baby after about 6 months together, and 4 months after that he cheats on her. And that's just when he was caught. Just to add as well, there are obviously several reasons why this timeline was mental and should have been a huge red flag. But the other thing that it shows, pay attention to people's character. It's easy to get swept up in the moment, especially when has this point of view that she wants a man to be obsessed with her. But just be obviously be emotional and have get your heart involved with and trust your instincts on whoever you're involved with and romantically, but also have a bit of logic about it. What does that tell you about his character? Okay, I'd say it tells you he's really impulsive. And he doesn't think things through, and he's kind of reckless. Now, these aren't all bad traits. There are some good things to that, but he clearly doesn't really have any control on them, because someone who's impulsive enough to meet a woman and be like, right, that's it, I'm going to marry her after this amount of time, he acts on his impulses clearly. Not necessarily a bad thing if someone is naturally like that, but they've got that under control, but he kind of clearly doesn't. Well, what does impulsivity lead to? He's acting on impulses, messaging other women. He's clearly, it's any kind of impulse or attraction he has, he seems to follow. That's a potential red flag for that. It's quite obvious to see that. That if he's that impulsive with her, oh my God, you're this amazing woman and let's get married now and have a baby. Why wouldn't he be like that as soon as he has the slightest bit of attraction with another woman and follow that impulse and not think about consequences? Because he didn't think about the consequences of marrying a woman, and getting into this crazy relationship after 2 days. Why would he think about the consequences of impulsively having an affair? You know what I mean? So people tell you who they are from quite early on, but just give it some time to properly let that register with you and just filter it and try not to be blinded by the thrill of having someone who's crazy about you. And that's not me saying you have to be cold and logical about everything. Obviously it's nice when someone adores you and is really into you. I'm not saying that that's bad, but just the way they do it, and people tell you, they show you who they are, they show you their character, and yeah, you can often see these things from quite early on. She's a dating guru. If that was a friend of mine who was escalating a relationship that quickly, I would be worried about her and think she was being reckless or blind to red flags because she was swept up in the moment. And yeah, everyone can make silly decisions and get swept up in things, but her whole thing is sensible dating and life advice. This was obviously a bad idea. Most people would look at that situation and know it's a bad idea. The fact she didn't think it was demonstrates that maybe people should not be taking her advice. It's really bad advice, guys. And I know that'll piss a lot of her fans off who are still defending her and defending her advice, but you can't argue with the results. And sure, some well-run relationships work out. There are some people who got married after 2 weeks and are still together, and if that's you in the comments, that's fantastic that it worked out. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't a reckless decision to marry someone you hadn't taken the time to get to know. And also know that you are the exception, not the rule. Yes, set boundaries and look out for yourself in relationships and don't allow someone to take advantage of you, but balance that with being considerate to the other person. Sometimes being selfish in a relationship is bad. And if you go for someone with totally self-serving and superficial reasons, i.e. how rich they are, don't expect a whole load of sympathy when they turn out to be a bad person. What do you want people to say? You went into dating totally selfishly and ended up with someone selfish. What did you think was going to happen? The rich man you would never have dated if he wasn't rich, only valued female beauty and thus had his head easily turned by other pretty girls? Most predictable outcome ever. Most people are not going to be hugely sympathetic when someone who is using somebody gets used themselves. And again, that doesn't mean that I'm happy about the situation she finds herself in, or that I think, you know, I'm like, yay, she deserved it. I'm not saying that, but it's just not, it was just avoidable, and it's not surprising. It's not a surprising outcome. And people are probably going to be like, you were like actively spreading toxic advice. Obviously, you're going to end up in a toxic situation, is going to be most people's response. And the same goes for Fresh and Fit, you know? Oh, you got screwed over by escorts, did you? Oh, boo-hoo. Maybe if you didn't treat women like objects, you'd find a healthy relationship. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Just whatever you do, man or woman. Don't enter dating totally selfishly and in the most idiotic way, and then turn around and blame either all men or all women for the fruits of your actions, like it's a fundamental problem with the opposite sex. Don't do that. Don't use your bad decisions to further destroy gender relations. Like Liz's Instagram post about a man who will spend $1 million on you, but will still cheat on you, and, you know, after, like... But that's not men, though. Not all men will do that, Liz. Just the ones that you attract when you consciously decide to have a transactional relationship. And when you're disgusted by any man who won't spend a small fortune on you, and you mock him for being a brokey. When you pick a shallow man. So no, it's not men will do this. Men will spend $1 million on you and then do this. Yeah, the men you date will do that. Liz talks a lot about not being a victim, so maybe take some accountability for your part in this. You were willing to settle for a man of poor character as long as he was rich, so don't you dare use that to justify writing off all men as being terrible, or that they all cheat. That goes for like her supporters, because they're mostly doing that. You're just as bad as the Red Pill podcasts when you do that, with their whole narrative that men can't help cheating. You do know that that's what they say to justify men cheating, right? They say that men can't help it, so that's why they have to cheat, and they just do it, because, you know. So you just both have the same narrative, except you literally have the same philosophy, just the only difference is that men believe men are superior and the women believe women are superior, but apart from that, like, match made in heaven. You just believe the same things. You all deserve each other. Date each other and be miserable, please, and leave the rest of us alone. So that's why I was hard on Liz in this video, despite the difficult situation around her. I'll say again, I'm not happy she's now going to be a single parent. I hope she can find happiness again. I hope she can find healing, genuinely. Landon still sucks, but after all of the toxic stuff she says and does, and how horrible she is, I'm also angry at the advice that she gives to millions of people. I hope she'll find happiness and peace, especially for the sake of her child, but she's not going to do it by continuing the way that she has been. And her fans need to know she's not an iconic goddess. She's a 25-year-old influencer with unresolved issues who uses people around her and openly admits to being selfish. She's not proof that you're doomed or that men are evil. Just snap out of it. I don't know how old she is. She's 25 or 26, something like that. But I mean, she's not, like, stop putting influencers and YouTubers or anyone on pedestals. Stop putting anyone on pedestals. You can, like, respect people, like their advice, you know, think they're interesting or valuable or, like, even a good person, but just don't put them on a pedestal like her fans have, where they are like, oh my god, what do us mere mortals, us mere peasants stand a chance where the iconic goddess Liz has been cheated on? It's like, guys, stand up, like, come on. She's not that great. She's kind of mean. She's really mean. In short, can you learn useful dating advice from the wizard Liz? Yes, absolutely. Take this entire situation as a lesson and don't do what she did. And finally, using people is not girl boss. It's just selfishness dressed up as pseudo-spiritual self-love bullshit. The answer to Red Pill podcasts is not to just create a female version of it. You're just going to justify their existence even more and push more people into believing it and make things worse for both women and men. You are not justified in using some random guy just going about his life because some other men at some other points in time have used women. That just makes you a bad person, not an empowered badass. Anyway. Thank you for joining the musings of myself and Asis. Let us know what you think. We would love to hear your thoughts, and if there is something in this video that you didn't like or agree with, that part was Asis's idea, so please contact him directly with your complaints. Look after yourselves.